Spider here, Baditude, rock and roll. Today, I have Jack the Bear Taney from Delux Mastering down at Melbourne at Brunswick. Absolute legend in the field. Done 2 albums with this guy previously. We'll talk about that later, Jack. Mate, first off, welcome. How are you?
Mate, I'm good. Good. Thanks for inviting me. I'm thinking, fuck, mate, if you've the fact that you've asked me tells me you've run out of options, mate. You've hit the bottom of the barrel, so fuck. No one else. When everyone else says no, you come to me.
One of the first on my list, mate. I'll tell you that. Absolutely. Look, Jack, mate, I've been going over a lot of your stuff, like on your sites, your websites, obviously Delux Mastering, and all the others, your personal stuff, and all your podcasts. With the mastering side of things, what was it that got you in the game? And I don't want to rehash a lot of stuff. There's a lot of interviews on you, and I was reading it before. I don't want to rehash all that stuff because it's available online to watch. But just from your perspective, like, what got you into mastering? It's such a, it's a left-sided field topic.
Yep. Okay, mate. Well, look, the common line I always give to people is that I didn't find mastering found me. I didn't even know what it was until it was introduced to me way back in the day. And I was, like a lot of other people, trying to get into the recording and the mixing, the producing side of things, because that's what I knew as a youngster in terms of, wanting to get into the music business and specifically record making. All that I knew about was producing and mixing and recording. And it wasn't until I met a bloke who in New York who said to me, he basically explained what mastering was, and the first thing that appealed to me was just how fast it was. And I think the kicker was the fact that everyone was banging on the door to get into the recording studios and wanted to mix, and it was super competitive, but no one really knew about mastering. It was not that it was a new thing, but it didn't have the same amount of profile, and not many people knew. Even to this day, it's still one of those mysteries to people. And so, being pragmatic, I just thought, oh wow, well there seems to be more opportunity, less people wanting to get into it. And I thought, look, as much as I wanted to learn how to be a mixing engineer and producer, I thought, well, I just want to get my foot in the door and get into something that, with a greater chance of being able to succeed at it. And so it was a pragmatic decision on my end as a youngster, and I'm grateful that I did, because it's worked out all right.
Okay, good. And look, the thing that I found with mastering, I was in the business for a long time, but I wasn't into a lot of recording. So when the mastering come up, it was a bit, I don't know, it was a bit weird for me. I knew there was, the producing and the recording and all that side of thing. But when it comes to mastering, I didn't, I thought, well, what's that about? Can you explain it to someone like me? And that's the type of audience I'm going for. But like, what is it with mastering? Why do you need to do this?
Well, I guess the simplest explanation I could offer anyone about what mastering is okay. So I think people are familiar with having a bass and treble control in their stereo system, or a graphic equalizer, something that's going to alter the overall sound of the music, and people will adjust it in order to make it sound the way they want it, or the way they prefer, how they want to hear it, to get so that the bass isn't too much or the treble isn't too much. So everything kind of sounds right and balanced. So what I do is I'll take someone's mix. So people go into a studio, they record, and then a mixing engineer will take the recording and take all the individual elements of the song and blend them together to create what's the final stereo mix. And then that mix will go to me, and then I'll put it through a process of equalizers and compressors and plugins and just the tools that will help to create that final finished sound, which then can go off for digital distribution, or if it's going to vinyl, I'll do it a bit differently, but then we'll go off for to vinyl. Yeah. And so that's probably in the most basic of layman terms that I could explain it to someone that absolutely has. If an alien came to the planet, that's how I'd explain it.
And you do, and obviously you put the codes in. The codes are important because, you know, the systems that are utilising the music, they recognise the music, and somewhere down the line you'll get paid.
Yeah, hopefully,
and,
yes.
And also the cuts in between the songs, that's very important. I know that was for us.
Yep.
You know, sometimes you might want to have songs follow a song immediately, things like that. I remember I was watching one of your podcasts one day. Well, it wasn't a podcast, it was one of the things you put up on one of your sites, and it was about make sure that before you send in those recordings to you, that you know, you do have a decent producer, and you can't polish a turd, is what you were saying. So that, can you just talk about that for a second?
Yeah, well, I think that they say that the chain is only as strong as the weakest link. So when it comes to making records, or I suggest that everyone, you know, starts off from the beginning, which is making sure that your instruments are in tune, you know, and getting them recorded properly. And then that means that there's going to be less issues when it comes to mixing, because we're trying to fix what went wrong the previous step. So by the time it gets to me, I get to do what I'm meant to do, which ironically is not a hell of a lot. I've always said that, you know, my job's about framing a picture, not trying to repaint it. And so we can avoid that if we use the you know, the saying of prevention is better than cure. So now I understand for a lot of people, it's like, well, you know, yeah, that's all right. I need, you know, this costs money. Yeah, I agreed, but you don't necessarily have to throw a hell lot. I mean, in this day and age, people are making records for incredibly, don't want to say cheap, but for figures that 10, 15, 20 years ago was pretty much unheard of, you know. So always, wherever possible, make sure that you, doesn't necessarily mean that the most expensive is the best. I believe that there is a point of where you get a good bang for the buck, and that requires musicians to do their due diligence, you know, talk to different people. I mean, you know, get word of mouth from, I think word of mouth's a really good way to go, from people that you respect, or, you know, people's records that you might like, and go, oh, who'd you work with? And so I'll let you know, I work with Joe Blow. Okay, so let's look up Joe Blow. Let's talk to him. Let's see, you know, if he really wants to work with us, you know. So there's all these things you can do to ensure that you get quality, you know, but you've got to get it from the start. And each and every step is very important that you get it right. It pays to take your time. It pays to invest, but invest wisely. I'm not saying throw money indiscriminately. I'm saying that just take your time to make sure that every step you take is a good step, so that if you do muck up, you don't have to go back too far. It's only one step that you may have to go back, rather than, you know, realizing, for example, I'll get bands who will come to me with a recording and they say, oh, you know, we want you to make a sound like that. And it's like, well, mate, I can't make champagne out of cat piss, you know. You know, you've gone through all these steps when you should have been thinking about this at your pre-production stage. You know, if you want to kind of, you know, have a similar vibe, or you're inspired by certain bands, like, well, do your homework and find out about, you know, what did they do, what sort of steps did they take, and start implementing that from the start. But quality is everything. You know, look, we all learn by our mistakes. I mean, you know, every band that I work with, typically each album gets better and better as they learn more, and sometimes you got to make the mistakes along the way in order to learn them. Yeah.
Look, it's a hard log. It's hard log to do that. You know, you really got to put your time and your effort into it, you know, to make something of quality, you know. We can all throw out.
I think time and effort are the two ingredients that people, I think, underestimate in terms of being non-negotiables to being good at anything in life, you know. And I'll share a story with you here about this woman in New York who, she was a concert pianist, and she was playing at this private party for these, you know, very well-to-do people. Anyway, she put on the performance was just the most amazing performance. Everyone was completely like the whole room just stopped. You could hear a pin drop. Everyone was just absolutely mesmerised. And one of the ladies in the audience went up to this performer and thanked us. Oh my God, that was the most amazing performance. And the musician, she was having a bad day, but she said, I would love to be able to play like you. And she turned around to her and said, no, you wouldn't. And she was a bit like gobsmacked at the response. And because what this lady didn't realise, she didn't realise that the time and the effort this pianist, she was doing 10 hours a day, 7 days a week, just non-stop. So people will look at things and go, oh, geez, I'd love to be able to play like that guitar player, not realising the dedication that was involved to get that good. We see artists or athletes, and when people make things look like it's easy, they put in their time, and people kind of think it's easy until they try themselves. So, time and effort are the two non-negotiables. You can't really escape it. No one was born a genius. No one, came out of their mother's womb with talent. I mean, maybe the environment may have helped. There may have been some things that helped you along to a point, but you had to put in the time. You had to put in the effort. Otherwise, you would not become as good as, you want to become. Yeah. And look, that story, you do this every day. I notice you do this every day. There's always inspiration coming out of you. In that regard, and you've got these projects going off the side, and I see them not so much coming and going, but mastering music, mastering life. Can you tell me a little bit about that? It's an offside project to your mastering, yeah? Mm. Well, mastering music, mastering life was really born out of a couple of things. One is that I've always had an interest in personal development. I wouldn't say that I was a personal development junkie, but I've always been fascinated in what is it that makes people tick and what is it that makes people good at what they do. And also just through my own life, because I keep telling people I'm a third degree black belt in fucking up. And so I thought, well, I wanted to, within the music, because personal development typically, or certainly back in the day, was something that was catering towards more business and entrepreneurs and the commercial sector. And I thought, well, how can I bring some level of personal development into the music industry without all of the entrepreneurial jargon and all of that stuff that most people wouldn't relate to? Like, how can I bring, how do I bring some context into sharing people some stories and a bit of wisdom that's going to help them develop as artists within music without all the other bullshit around it. So that's kind of what it was born out from. And most of it, really, to be honest, Spider, is just me, really just talking through my heart and just sharing stuff about my life, and mainly focusing on where I went wrong, because that's where the biggest lessons were learnt. And I'm, unlike people in that world, personal development, they're always very keen to show, oh, here's my Ferrari, or here's my success, or here's how much money I made, or here's my boat. I'm not really interested in showing that. Not that I haven't succeeded and done some good things in my life, but I want to keep it real with people, and I want to tell them, listen, I've had mental health issues, I've had drug issues, I've had family issues, I've had financial issues. I still have my days where I struggle today, in the hope that people can see that, they don't feel alone. They're not. We can have a tendency to feel like, wow, we're the only ones going through it, and no one understands. Well, people do understand, and I certainly understand. The situation and circumstances may be different from each other, but in terms of the feeling of feeling lost, feeling alone, feeling disconnected, feeling anxiety, feeling self-hatred, all that shit. We all know what it's like, and I certainly do, and I have my days where I get a bit lost too. So I think when people kind of look up to you, which is very flattering and very nice, I don't want to bring myself down when I talk about my failings in life. It's just really to tell people that, hey, this is part of it. This is part of the journey. And hopefully you learn from it. And this is an example of something from my life that hopefully people will relate to and connect with. So that's kind of in a nutshell what it is, why it's here, and why it's something that I want to continue doing, in the hope that someone gets something out of it, Spider, and maybe they just stop and think about things in their life and go, well, shit, you know, I'm not alone. Oh, okay, well, this is kind of normal. And more importantly, there's a way out of it, and there's a way to go through it to get to the other side. That's the main message. It's about the fact that you're not going to be stuck there. Everything is temporary. Even the good times, we don't always have fantastic times forever, and the shit times don't last forever. It's like music, frequency. It's a wave, mate. It's up and down. The higher the peak, the deeper the valley. You can't escape it.
Yeah, for those that those are watching this for the first time that might know Jack, look, trust me on this. You know, get onto his Facebook, get onto his podcast, and have a listen to it. I know. I don't know if it's every morning, Jack, but Jack will get up, you know, at 5 o'clock in the morning. He'll go down to the beach and he'll do a little inspirational speech from down at the beach, and it's good. And you were touching on before, Jack, about, you know, where you have these fuck ups in life, you know, and you've got to learn from it. Most of us have been through that, and that's a good thing about it, because you can relate to it. And there's always, I know I've had my turning points and a number of them in my life where your life could have gone this way, you could have gone that way, you know. And as you said, you learn from them and take that experience and go with it to make sure that you're on that right path, you know. It's terrible when you see people, and I'm not going to say the word far, but when you see people, you know, not taking that in and going somewhere where they probably shouldn't be, you know, or in another instance they couldn't be. Mate, you do a lot of charity drives and all that. We're still doing it. I know.
Well, I haven't done any formal charity drives for a while, but what I've been keen to doing these days is I'm sort of just more on the download. I like to help kids out. I like to help young bands out, and typically, rather than kind of advertise the fact that, oh, look, I'll do a freebie today or whatever, I'll get people. You know, every week I'll get requests from people, and you know, sometimes there'll be a band that comes along, the young kid. I mean, look, all musicians are broke. All musicians have got no money. I get that, but there are times when someone will come along where we're literally talking no money, not the no money that we're all fucking, you know, experiencing. And so in cases like that, you know, there'll be a manager that, and typically someone, you know, the people that usually hit me up for that, I usually know aren't, you know, they're not taking the piss. They're not here for a free ride. They usually have something quite legitimate. And if I you know, if I listen to it, I really, you know, I don't necessarily do all of them, but most of the time I do. And so I will, you know, I'll do free work. You know, every week I'll always do something to try and help along. The charity. So I guess it is charity of sorts. It's just that I don't particularly advertise it. Usually it's just a case of, you know, people will hit me up and I'll look at, and I'll take it on a case by case basis, and I've only got X amount of, you know, energy that I can expend on that. But I think it's important that somebody like myself continues to give back and continues to help, and sometimes that may be whether it's a, you know, master a track for someone for a particular charity, or, you know, for a young band with no money, or a particular cause that I happen to resonate with, or, you know, someone will say, listen, can you sit down and talk to these guys? You know, they're trying to get ahead. Their head's not quite there. Can you maybe have a chat with them and see if you can help them, you know, clear some of the fog that may be going on. So
been on that a lot, Tony. I noticed that you put out a feeler a little while back, and it's not just about talking music. It's not about talking master. If you want to talk about your alcoholism, you want to talk about your mental health issues. Yep. You've got open ears, mate. You're there for everyone.
Oh yeah, totally. Because you know, great Archie Roach, who passed away recently. Uncle Archie, we said, nobody's got the monopoly on pain. and he's right. You know, I haven't met anyone that hasn't or isn't going through some kind of challenge and some kind of shit in their life, and so I'm happy to share these things because it's under the umbrella of, like I said, just to be honest and to be real with people and to be authentic, because I think that everyone can relate to people when they're telling the truth, and you can't bullshit a bullshitter. I've tried, doesn't fucking work. So when I stopped giving up, you know, the game when I was younger of, you know, trying to create the facade and like everyone else, and realised that, you know what, I've got to drop this because my fear of, well, I'm worrying about what other people think about me, which is a worry that everyone seems to have. You know, and I think part of it, Spider, is, you know, in my case, getting a bit older, a little bit wiser, and being a late bloomer. I've always tell people I got things very late in life, and I've always had to learn the hard way. But hey, we're here, we've arrived, and so just to share this stuff and be honest, and part of that is to do these things and not really giving a fuck about what other people think, because the truth is, most of those people that are concerned or think it all looks shit are going through shit of their own. They just can't. They just can't bring themselves, you know. I mean, you know, even now, look, mate, times are tough in the business. They're tough for me too. And you know, I still see engineers who, oh, listen, God bless them, mate. If they're doing well, they are. I mean, I'd love to see people do well. But, you know, there's people who like to put on a show about things are going better than they are because it's about keeping up appearances. And you know, deep down, you know that they're kind of bullshitting you a bit, you know. And I think people like that lack credibility, and deep down, even though people will nod and sort of, yeah, good on you, deep down they kind of know, as I said, you can't bullshit a bullshitter.
Yeah. Mate, back to mastering. I've had the privilege of doing 2 albums with you. One where we went along, that was a memorial.
Memorable. That was good fun. Yeah.
We'll talk about that offline. And then there was another time, obviously because of COVID, you've had a lot of that lately where we do the Zoom. From your aspect, is it better that the band turns up and masters it along with you, or?
I've for many years now, I've been a great fan of the attended session. Now, look, I appreciate the fact that you guys, and there are people that, you know, flowing in the state and even overseas in some cases to, you know, which is just very flattering and phenomenal. I always advise, if you can, to be present. Now, there are some engineers out there that don't particularly like attended sessions, or sometimes they charge more for it. I've never been one to charge more for attended mastering. I think half the fun of the session is getting to hang out with the musicians and getting to know them and building relationships, right? I mean, it's all about the beautiful thing about this business and my career is, yes, great records to have worked on, but also great friendships and relationships. You and I, all these years now, we're still ringing each other, we're still mates. I mean, that happened because of that, and because you guys happened to be there, and we clicked. We genuinely clicked, and you know, dare I say, a real brotherhood was formed out of that. I mean, so I highly recommend that bands do that. I think for a couple of reasons. One, it's the final step of the process. So this is where the record takes the final shape, and it's like, because when you walk away with that finished product and press play at home, that's the way Johnny Punchclock's going to hear it after they buy it or download or whatever. It's also a chance for you to get to understand what goes on. As I said earlier on, even today with the internet and with forums and everything else, mastering still seems to have this kind of mystery around it, and people still don't fully understand it. And so it's important that you get to know what goes on. Now, some engineers like to kind of continue this myth of the black art, and they want to keep it, and it's fear, because in the same way that now so many bands are becoming more self-sufficient with mixing and recording and with technology, their fear is, oh fuck, I might lose my gig, because if I sort of, you know, share what I do, then they're going to go off next time and try it on their own, and there may not be a gig. That to me is the greatest insecurity that you could think of. You know, when you're good at what you do, there will be work for you. Cream rises and shit stinks. That'll never change, just like gravity. Okay, that'll always be the case. So, I really, I love having bands there. And if you're going to go into a mastering session and it's in your town or in your state and it's within a reasonable travel distance, I highly recommend you do that. And you know, now as I said, for the engineers out there that charge extra, okay, it's a commercial decision. That's a decision that they make. I understand why, because unattended sessions take less time. And so from an efficiency point of view, you're going to make more money. You know, you can charge a little less and you can bang out more work in a day than to have an attended session, because it's always going to take long and you're going to earn so much. So they're going to want to charge more. Each to their own on that one. I'm not going to make any judgment calls or say whether it's good or bad. That's up to you. But if you can get involved, I highly recommend you do.
Well, from a muso perspective, and you hit it right on the head. Look, as a muso, get out of your comfort zone. Don't try and do everything electronically. Get on the plane, get on the bus, walk down the road, go and see Jack, and do the mastering there. It's like when you're going into the studio. You know, take it all in the studio, meet these people. As Jack said, we've been friends for years now. You know, if we would have been doing that online, we wouldn't have had that relationship build. And it's important as a musician or anyone in the game that you have these great people around you, and you know them better than this professional attitude. Because a lot of us, and Jack's a good example of it, a lot of us see through a lot of bullshit, you know, until you meet these people and really, you know, perform that relationship, then you're on your way. You're going to have a great time doing it. It's not going to be this struggling, bloody thing in the music industry, which we all have. Mate, what's the future holding for Delux Mastering? Jack the Bear, what's the future?
Well, I guess no one knows what's going to happen 5 minutes from now, mate. But look, the studio's still rolling. I'm about to finally. I've been putting this off for years, mate. To write a book, so I'm gonna. The next 12. I mean, I'm still going to be mastering, but I'm going to dedicate time towards writing a book that I've been meaning to do forever. You know, the studio will still be there. I still want to, you know, venture into more speaking and mentoring, because I don't, you know, like I don't really want to retire because I love what I do, but I also think that, you know, I'm just on the verge of turning 60, and I really feel that, you know, it's time for me to pass the baton on and get some youngsters through and give them the opportunity to get their name up in lights and become top billing in the same way I had that opportunity, and still be there and present and still do records. But, you know, I've got to think about, well, what's going to happen to me, you know, 10 years from now, hopefully maybe 20 years from now. I may not be mastering, my ears will probably give out, but I can see that hopefully as I get older and maybe a bit wiser, I can help youngsters and young artists and musicians and be there in more of a mentoring role and do more speaking and, you know, possibly more writing. I've got to get this first book out, you know, first. So that's where I see the future right now. Really delving more into speaking, mentoring, and you know, working more closely with bands and artists and people who are open to considering what I've got on offer. Yeah,
and then go and enjoy life, mate. I know you're enjoying life now, and I know you would correct me on that, but mate, I know you've got bigger and better things to, you know, look forward to.
Oh, look, I'm very happy. I'm here with the Trouble and Strife here down in Torquay, west coast, surf coast of about an hour and a half out of Melbourne, and I commute to Melbourne. It's great, mate. You know, I just love being near nature and in a relaxed environment. You can walk down the street and people say good day to each other. And, you know, as much as I'm a city boy and born and bred in the city, and I love Melbourne and I love the city.
You're in a house every now and then.
You know, you know.
Speaking of which, mate, I got a surprise for you. I've got a little surprise for you today, mate. I don't want to put you on the spot, but
that's right.
I can't. I don't afford two headphones. So. Jack, how are you, son?
How are you, brother?
How you
Yeah,
doing,
good,
son?
mate. Good, mate. Look at you. Sorry, mate.
How you been? How's
Mate, I'm
Connie?
been all right. Yeah, she's traveling all right, mate. Yeah, she's she's coming good from a surgery, and she's I don't think she's ready for the selectors for this weekend, but maybe next season she might be ready, mate, to pull on the Guernsey and get on the paddock, give it a go.
Yeah, it's good.
Yeah, mate, Pierce, he's great. He's doing heaps of these dogs. He's with his detector dogs, sniffing bomb detection and drug detection, and got the dogs going. He's just found a place to move into, so he's all grown up now, and he and his mate have they're moving into a place next week actually, and mate, he's going great guns. He's going great guns. Yeah.
When you come up.
I reckon it's on the cards for, if not later this year, probably early. Well, it's his birthday in February, so I reckon we'll probably do a repeat. Maybe come up for a weekend because he turns 29. Sorry, mate.
Right. Give me back my headphones. Good to see you, Jack.
Love you, buddy. Good to talk to you, mate.
Hey, Rob Carney, one of the hardest drinking, best right hand in the business, and on guitar.
100%.
Look, Jack,
100%.
mate, I'm getting told that I've got to run this up off the bloody computer here. Mate,
No
we
worries.
can find you on Facebook. Can you just give us a rundown?
Yeah, you can. It's Tony Jack Mantz on Facebook. I'm not on it every single day, but I'm still on there.
Yep.
And Instagram is Mastering Music, Mastering Life, and the website is jackthebear.com.au.
Excellent. Get on there. Go and have a listen to Jack. Get to know him. He's a great bloke, great inspiration. One of the greats in the business. If you've got some, you want to ask about mastering and all that, I know he's got his ears open. He'll give you some advice wherever.
Happy to help.
Anyway, with Jack the Bear, Spider, and the Carney, and we're on Baditude Rock and Roll. Thank you, Jack.
Thanks, but love you, buddy.
Man.
Thank you.
See you, brother.